Hi there. Ecamm Live 3.9 has introduced quite a lot of new creative abilities. So it's almost possible that it has killed the need for overlays with transparency, which you used to be able to place over the screen. The designs that you see around the screen here now are all created on top of a single canvas. So what I want to do is give you a few tips on how you might be able to mimic what I've got here. So let me just go through some of the things we've got. We've got a moving background around the side of me, and on the outside of that we've got yet another frame which is a white border. That's got a little bit of a trick to it that I'll show you in a minute. Then in the center of the screen we have another camera angle effectively, which is actually just producing my iPad, and that's surrounded also by the same moving graphic. And then on the right hand side of the screen as you're looking at it, we've got an interview guest with a white border which is created directly in Ecamm, and then surrounding that we have another border, and you can add as many borders as you like with the method that I'm going to be able to show you here today. So what I wanted to do was really highlight that you can use your own creativity now. It doesn't have to be where you take a long time either knocking out transparency from a still image, or even harder, getting transparency into a moving image. The ability to create nice frames within Ecamm now is a real game changer. I'll be going through some of the key commands and some tips that will help you get to this final kind of outcome very quickly. So let's jump in straight ahead. I'm going to, before I do, I said there was one little nice trick that the white frame around my box has, and if you watch it closely I will be able to just make it change live from kind of white to red and any color, any shade in between. You see that? So that is a functionality that I'll be able to show you as well. So I'll just change it back to white right now. Okay, we're going to create exactly this scene, or as near to it as I possibly can. I'm going to go to a blank scene, and we're going to do a lot of work in demo mode. So I'll be moving to demo mode as well. So let's dive on to the next blank scene. I've left myself here so you could at least see a talking head. Now what I'll also do is just quickly go into demo mode, and we're in demo mode right now, which is great. Okay, as we look at the screen here, if I quickly zoom into this corner, you can see that we've got show in background, and I've got several basically just still images that we can use as a background. So if I just move back out, we've got the sky clouds one there. Now one tip I've got is that using a blurred background scene is really usually quite a good idea. Keep it as monochromatic as possible, and that doesn't mean black and white, it just means one tone with white, so the shades of a single tone. So this one for instance works quite well. I'll just turn this one off and go to another alternative. You might use something like this. These again are very satisfying because they're my own images. You should be using your own images as a background. So you might have something like that, or you might just take a photograph completely out of focus, and these work really well for background images as well. Finally, you could actually use something that's kind of graphically designed. Something like this is a lot more lively, of course, and you have to be very careful about it not distracting from the thing that you're doing, either your live stream or your interview or whatever. So obviously there is the ability to use moving images as well, and I'll show you those actually separately. So I'm going to go back to this scene. So the first thing I want to do is show you that we've added myself as a camera image and camera overlay. To do that, you simply go to the overlays box here, and I've added myself as a camera overlay. If I leave that on there, you can see it says new camera overlay. So that's how I've added myself to this scene. If I click up here, you can see that I've got a USB camera. It's called USB camera, and I've got a custom shape. So this is actually something I want to start to show you first of all. This is all new in Ecamm 3.9. I can right click on the picture, and I just need to unlock it. I can right click on the picture and say, and there's a reset crop. So I want to show you where I started for this image. If I click on reset crop, we can see that actually it was a custom shape amongst all of these. And the great thing now is that if you use a custom shape, you're able to then crop in the edges to your heart's content. So I can crop in and show any part of this image I want to, which is really great for framing. So if I was sitting kind of over this side of the frame, it doesn't matter because I can bring the edges in. And the way we do that is we hold the Alt key down and then click on the edge. So when the cursor looks like the two-way arrow, hold the Alt key down and you'll be able to move the side in just like so. If I go to the other end, hold the Alt key down and move that side in, then I've framed myself and it didn't matter where I was in the frame, and that's a real bonus, that is. And I can then just move that picture around wherever I want to be on the screen. And this is the other great bonus, is that I haven't now restricted my position for my own image on the screen, which a transparent overlay would have done in the past. So we're much more flexible now. Just to go through the other features here, we've got the ability to round the edges now. So we've got rounded corners, and we can select whichever corners we want to round in the job here in the picture box. So I can do that, and I can create more rounded or less rounded corners to suit as whatever suits you, whatever looks good. The border width is here as well, and we have a number in the border width. The width or the size of this designed box doesn't change, but the border will essentially shrink the image within it. So think of it that way. The border does not grow from the outside, it kind of grows inwardly, so it essentially shrinks the containing image. So just watch what I mean there. You see I get smaller, and in fact it starts to slightly crop me. So be careful of that, or just be aware of it. You don't really have to be careful of it. But if I go back down to like 5 pixels, I guess we might be calling that, that works really well. So there we are. We've now got some nice new shapes. We've even got a squircle, which is essentially a round edged circle, which you could use. But if you want to be properly creative, I think the custom way is really good. And just to highlight this again, right click, reset crop if you want to reset it and just start again. Okay, because I can now grab the edge and just drag with the Alt key down back out again if I wanted to anyway. So that's the first thing. So what I'd like to do is show you how I might, let's just bring it in a bit, how I might put another border around this image. So the way we do that is we go back to the overlays button. So we're back down in this corner here, and we can click on this icon which says new image overlay. There's two things I can do. I can add an animated overlay or an image overlay. I'm going to go for the animated one just to start with. So if I click on that, let me just bring it all back down. It brings up a folder where I've got some full screen or some animated overlay, some movies. Effectively, these are movie files. So if I highlight this one and click on open, I get the option to play with full screen with audio or add it as an animated overlay. Animated overlays do not have audio at all. So I'm going to add it as an animated overlay. This movie actually didn't ever have any audio anyway. And we can see we've got this nice effect. Here's a challenge for you. I created this directly in Keynote, so you can all create this if you want to go into Keynote and start messing around with some of the features that are there. Everything all done in Keynote, even the shapes and the animation and the rolling image there. Anyway, what I can do now is I can move this image effectively over the picture that contains myself. But what I could do in here is just move the overlay down below my own picture. So now you can see me above. Okay, so if that was in the overlays area, you can actually see that. What we have now as well is the ability to make this loop, and I want this to carry on looping. So let me just roll over it and click on the play button. So this is continuing to roll on. I can now move this wherever I want to have it on the screen. And we've still got the same controls. So if I hold on the Alt key, as I have this double-edged arrow over the corner, and I can move it there, that way, if I want to. Okay, I ran out of room for my mouse to move. Now you see here that I've got this extra bit at the bottom of the graphic overlay. If you roll over and get the double-edged arrow on the corner and then hold the Alt key and then click and drag it, you can move this any way that you like within the bounds of the image itself. So I can now nicely set that up to be about a nice little balance there. Okay, so that now, hopefully you can see, if I just come out of demo mode, sets me up nicely with a animated border going around the outside of my image, and I've already got another border already there from Ecamm's new picture box options. Back into demo mode. So now let's add the timer that I had on the previous screen, just showing the clock. The way we do that is we go down to the bottom left hand side of the screen. Let me just zoom into there again for you, and where it says this 321, if I roll over the cursor, it will say new countdown overlay. So the countdown overlay contains all of the timing text functions that Ecamm has. So we click on that button and that brings up a window, and that window then shows several things. So at the moment we've got a countdown timer. We can count down to a particular date and time. We can use the clock, which is what we're going to use, or we could set a stopwatch. You can have a play with all of those. They're really very, very useful. If I click on the clock style, then what we can also do is we can see that we've got a background color that we can change. So if I don't like that background color, I can click in this window here, and that then livens up our color control that comes with the Mac. Now there's several options that you can use here. If you just want a grayscale, so from white or one of the grays to black, my suggestion is you click on this second button, click on the drop down and go to Grayscale Sliders. That contains it into those kind of color areas. So I might want maybe this kind of color in the background, maybe a bit darker. If I want a different color, you can either go to HSB. I kind of like that, but you never really know what the hue is. It's not that obvious, but the best one for me is this icon here. Let me zoom into it so you can see. This one that says image palettes here. Yes, just image palettes. And if you click on that, it brings up what it calls the spectrum. And the spectrum then allows you to click anywhere within this window to select the color that you want to have. So if I click in this light blue area, you can see it changes in the background of the screen. So I can actually hold down the mouse button and scroll around this window and work out what color I actually really want. Also, potentially I could click on this the eyedropper button and go anywhere in the scene and click on it and set that as the color for the background. So I'm going to do that. That's the color I'm going to have for my clock. So you've got background, we've got the rounded corner options that we saw earlier. Now they've been added, and we've got the margin for the size of the border and the border itself. So actually the margin enlarges the whole border from the inside to the outside, so it's kind of the opposite thing that we saw earlier. So we can use the margin to get a much wider area around the clock if you want to. So that's where we are now. If I click on add, that will add that to the scene, and I can drag it wherever I want it to go, and I can still make it bigger or smaller by clicking on any one of the edges. I don't think, and I may be wrong, no, I can't crop in. It just allows us to make it keeps the proportions of this image all of the time. Okay, so your proportions have to be set when you're creating the timer within this window. So make sure you get those kind of proportions somewhere that you like them. So I'm just going to reduce mine a little bit, click on save again, and then you can make it bigger but within the same proportions. Okay, but one thing that we had, if you remember in the earlier scene, was a drop shadow, and this is the next thing I'd like to really show you. If you want to add any other colours around the border, because we can actually see we've got a thinnish border there already, we can add a new image overlay. So the new image overlays are down in the bottom corner here. This button says new image overlay. Click on that, and then you can go and select the colours that you like. So here are a number of colour patches, colour swatches that I've created just to help you if you want to use them. They'll be available. I'll put a little link in the comments below this video, so you can actually go and get these. They're up there free. I've just put them on a portal so you can get hold of them to use yourself. The great thing about these colours is that they are the primary colours. So I've included a red, green, blue, so most people know that RGB are primary colours, but we've also got the cyan, magenta, yellow, black, which are the normal primary colours for the printing industry, so they're subtractive colours. Plus I've added a couple of extras which are used in the wide gamut printing industry. So we've got orange and violet as well. So the great thing about this limited number of colours is that you can mix them, and you can mix them at least to some extent within Ecamm to create any colour that you want. You just have to kind of know how they might mix together, and I'll show you that now, or show you that during this demonstration. Anyway, for the time being, I'm going to select white. These patches are all just square patches, and it'll come up on the screen like this. And if I want this patch to be the background behind this image, there's two things I can do. I can go to the overlay and drag it below the clock icon, like so, and you can see it there. Now what you have to do, because it's a square image, you need to drag it out so that it covers the full size, even though this might be quite big. And then you would use the Alt key trick to crop the box down. And again, you might want to get hold of this corner, hit the Alt button, click, and then you can just drag it. You could drag it in and out at the same time. So I'm just going to do this to create a nice effect. One of the things that you'll be seeing here is that I've also got the program area live on my screen, because it's a very good reference to see whether things are working properly in the design that you want to use. Sometimes the screen controls get in the way of whether you've really done the exact right thing here. So having the program window open is really helpful. To get the program window open, you can go to Window and then Program here. So it's Shift Command. I think that's a 0 rather than O. Letter O, it's a 0. So that will bring open this program window for you. That's one of the ways, at least. So we've now got a nice border around the clock, and remember the clock, if I actually double click, is not that obvious, so I'm going to give it a different border. let's just go to maybe, I don't want it to be too wacko different, but maybe that, and just make it a little bit wider, and click on save. So now we can see we've actually got two, as a double border here. But one of the other things that I added was a drop shadow. So how did I do that? Very much the same thing. We go to the add a image overlay at the bottom, click on that. We've got our colors. Let's click on the black, click on open. Here's our black square. We can drag that behind if we want to, the clock and the white in the overlays window, so that it appears below that. And if I want this to be a drop shadow, well, drop shadows, I'm going to just make it big enough to be a drop shadow. That would cover that kind of area. And I'll click on the Alt button again, remember, click, and that allows you to crop that window. But it's a bit too black, isn't it, to be a drop shadow. So what you can do, let me just make it a little bit bigger for you. If you click in the graphic, and then you can hit the shift button and hold the shift button. So while the hand is there, click and hold the shift button, and then you can scroll up on your mouse. If you've got a trackpad, that's a 2-finger scroll. If you scroll up, that will fade any graphic that you've put in from Ecamm. So you can now control how dark that black is, which is why it's so good to be a drop shadow. And so now I can go and hold the Alt key down, bring that back up to about the kind of area that I like. Maybe it's still a little bit dark, but maybe, yeah, maybe just a touch. So shift, just bringing it down to maybe there, Alt, and I'm looking in the program window at the bottom. That's really the place that you can see where that works best. So now I've got this kind of drop or pseudo drop shadow for the time. The great thing to do in this situation, I'm going to just zoom into the overlays window, is we've got 3 elements here. Maybe if I come back just a touch, we've got the clock. If I turn the clock off, you'll see it go off there in the program window. We've got the white first background, and we've got the black, which is our drop shadow. The good thing to do in this situation is to create a folder by going here where it says new group. So down at the bottom left, I've got a new group. Click on that. This new group window appears, or icon appears, and then we can click and drag the elements into that folder. So we've now got the clock, the white and the black. I can rename this new group and call it clock. If I could actually spell, it would be really useful. And hit return. And then what you see is, as I roll over here, we have this little link button. And that link button links all of the elements together, so that now when I want to move anything up here, they all go together. I'm not moving just the time or the shadow, for instance. So that link button is excellent. If you hit any of the lock buttons, any one of them, it will lock the whole clock. Okay, so every element is now locked. So that's the way that that works. And I can close the clock window button down if I want to right there. Okay, so we've still got a clock with the background and a drop shadow, me, and a moving background. Let's bring in another element. Wanting to be quite quick here, I'm going to bring in a camera from the bottom corner here. This is the new camera overlay. So this is how you bring in any picture from any camera, and that could be connected NDI feeds or iPhones or iPads if they're connected to your Mac. So I'll click on that and it brings up a window and it shows me by default. Here I can click on this button and say, well, I don't want it to be me, I want it to be my iPad. And I can then set the custom size, and here's where I would be able to move that corner. I don't need to be holding the Alt key at this particular point in time. I'm just trying to show the whole picture of what I want to show in the iPad. That's the iPad screen. So let's just do that. That looks about right. I also, as you see, have the ability to have rounded corners. And of course, I've got a border here as well, which I can control the width of if I want to. Let's just control the color. Let's make it white. So white is under this little icon here. Go to Grayscale, hit the white button. That turns that white for you. Okay, so that's quite nice. All I need to do now is click on that button there and I can move that to any part of the screen. I haven't been restricted, as we know, by having a previously set overlay with a cutout, which would force me to fix it in one position. I can move this around if I want to, much more flexibly in Ecamm 3.9 and later. Okay. So we've got that, that's quite nice. What about having an overlay? Well, let's get another overlay. So we can do, maybe we want the same moving image overlay border. So I can add at the bottom here, the overlays, and I click in this and select open and say add animated overlay. We saw that earlier. Now, one of the other tricks that you can do with any overlay like this, I can still hold down the shift key even on an animated overlay like this to fade it. So remember, it's hold the shift key down, scroll up on your mouse, and you see it makes it see-through. So this is another way that you can position the overlay, even though it might be sitting on top of the thing that it's eventually going to be behind. So again, I can stretch it that way, and now I want to make it smaller, so I can crop by holding the Alt key down, moving it and getting the overlay to kind of fit as well as I like it to. Maybe I want it to be a little bit bigger. I want it to be a bit more obvious here. So I'm just going to do that. And it kind of fits quite nicely there. And then in the overlays window, the icons here, we can move the movie behind the camera, which is the iPad. And so now we've got the movie behind the iPad, and the iPad has its own border already, which is the Ecamm feature. Okay, I want to move these around a bit, which is the great thing about having all of this. Let me put myself in a locked, so I can move all of those things together. These two items, the iPad and the hexagon, are now two items that I want to lock together. So I put them in a group. Let's call it iPad group. Like so, hit return, make the iPad into that folder. The moving image can also be in that folder, and I can then lock them together by hitting the link button, and I can now move them all together like so. Gives me now room for an interview person, so I can add the interview candidate just to be a last thing that we add in. So this is a new camera overlay. We go to custom in the shape, and we can drag that to whatever size we want. That looks good. Remember, I've got all of the controls for corner radiusing, etc. And I now select the guest. So this is where my guest might sit. And we have a single border, which is fantastic in itself. Just having the single one border there works really well. But if I wanted to put a double border around them, then remember, then what we do is we click on the add an animated overlay. Add an image overlay, of course, and then we can add our, let's say we want cyan as the background color. So I click on open. It gives me the square cyan box. I can place this right over the top of this interview window. Now watch this. If I go over here, this gives me the ability to move the square all the way over to the center of the image, which is what I'm going to need to do. To help me, I'm going to fade it. So shift, scroll up so I can see through it. And now I'm going to drag the whole image all the way over here. You see? So you have to do that. You keep it as a square to fully cover the image, and then you crop it after that. So now I can hold down the Alt key and bring in the edge like so. Once that's there, I can then bring this cyan patch below the camera, which is the guest. And now you'll see in the program window, I've got a very nice border around the first inner border. And you can, of course, make as many borders as you like. Okay, finally, that's actually how it all finishes. That's very nice. But what I want to show you is one of the tricks that you could use if you wanted to, and that is the mixing of colors within Ecamm for those overlays. So let me very quickly add an image overlay. Let's add the red. Bang. Let's put it just underneath me. Let's add another. So we want a color. Let's say we want a color that's kind of purplish. So if I click on the blue, you know, red and blue give you a purple. Did you know that? Hope so. I can now put the blue over the top of the red. I could actually completely cover it, but let's just leave it to the side because I want to show you the effect. Because we've now got the ability to adjust the opacity within Ecamm, that's by holding down the shift and scrolling up. Watch the color of that blue where it intersects with the red. You see we've got a purple color, so I can actually fade that blue to almost any shade of purple or reddish purple that I want. And similarly, I could actually still do that with the red as well. So I can fade the red out and it would help me get different colors as well. So you can move one color below the other and try to get whatever you like. So I can just scroll to make the red fade to a pink or up to full saturation. And similarly, I can do that. I can scroll up or down to fade the blue. And then when it intersects with another color, obviously that color comes out. So you've got a really wide variety of colors now available to you. The other final tip I just want to reiterate is that if you keep the program scene open, you can actually really make sure that everything fits perfectly down there whilst you're adjusting things like so. So I've got this nice purple color that I never had in the originals because I've faded the blue to mix with the red behind. So that's a nice little trick. Remember, these patches I've made available to you. Have a look in the comments for the address where to get them. I hope they're useful for you. And that's really it. So thanks a lot for watching. I am going to just end it there. So thanks for watching. I hope that that's been useful for you and you've been inspired to use your own graphics, create your own images, use those for your backgrounds if that suits your feeds. I think it's a really great idea. And thank you for the Ecamm guys for making this so easy to now do. If you want to get hold of the graphics, please just look in the comments below and you'll see a link for those. And take care, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks. Bye for now.